This is going to be great! New jobs and no mysterious threats to get in our way!
No mysterious threats!
Hello and good evening. Star Trek Lower Decks, Season 5, Episode 9, the penultimate episode, titled Fissure Quest, is over, but we're just getting started here on Live Long and Podcast, a live stream review here on Facebook, YouTube, and on Twitch. I'm Dave Mader, or you may be listening to us in audio version. We don't discriminate. I got a great panel here from the multiverse to break down this episode tonight. I did lose one because, we started a little later than expected. It was one of those days, but coming in first, it's the world mind himself, Chris Murphy.
It's me, your emergency medical husband, Chris Murphy.
The emergency medical husband. Very good. Coming in next, we got the Dino Man himself. It's Lieutenant Justin Velociraptor.
Hey, everybody. Going a little bit less formal for this episode.
Yes, you're out of uniform, Lieutenant. There will be some kind of a reprimand to speak of here. Of course, this live stream, throw your comments in there. We already have Sam, spoilers. If you have not watched this episode, we are going to spoil the hell out of it and talk all about it and everything, to go. Because this is the second to last episode of Star Trek Lower Decks that we know
Penultimate, baby.
Penultimate itself. Exciting times, guys, but also kind of sad. Bittersweet, maybe, and all of that.
It's ironic they would deliver their best episode ever now.
It is, and it feels like really, this is a part one of the finale. It's a lot of setup. I gotta say, just before we even get into what transpires in this episode, they did a lot in 20-something minutes. Quite frankly,
so much.
They did
So many references.
Now, part of that's because they can do all that because there's all of these alternate versions of characters that as Star Trek fans were familiar with. We get alternate dimension versions of, we already kind of talked about Bashir, Garrick, Gashir, or Gashir. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it, but they're here, of course. So we don't, voiced by their original actors. We have an alternate version of Curzon Dax in this episode. Many Harry Kims, all voiced by Garrett Wong.
So many Harry Kims.
Who was doing the voice of Curzon? Was that the guy who does Shax? That's who that would be. I guess.
I did not catch that. I was so just sort of enamored with the concept of it being Curzon Dax that I didn't think about the voice actor at all.
Well, yeah, and there was no real actor for them to pull from because maybe I guess Rene Auberjonois maybe would have been a choice, but he's since passed. So, because he got the Jintara of Curzon in him at one point. But Alfre Woodward. But we have Lily Sloan in this episode, an alternate version of her from Star Trek First Contact. I think that's all the big ones right now. Of course, William Boimler back in this episode too. And yeah, there's a big setup, and maybe we're all gonna die, but we're gonna see how this plays out. So.
Yes, it was Fred Tatasciore that did Curzon.
That's what I figured. Yeah, it was his kind of a different voice, but kind of that same vibe with the character. Yeah,
less gravel,
less gravelly, but kind of capture that essence of Dax, I think, pretty well. So anyway, this was quite the episode. There's a lot to maybe just run through. So we'll start there. What kind of comments do we have here? We got, Jody Simpson. Glory was not brought to the House of Mater. Guys, I skipped my curling game tonight just to be here with you.
Wow.
And Jody's indicating it was all for naught. But hopefully you gave them a good fight. You fought with honor, Jody. I would hope so. Oh, T'Pol. I forgot. Was we have a version of T'Pol? It's definitely Jolene Blaylock in this episode.
Everybody except for Curzon was played by their live action actor.
And there's no one to really play Curzon or to
It's really the first on-screen version of Curzon.
Yeah, we have in the very first episode of Deep Space Nine.
Second, yeah, technically second, yeah.
Yeah, in that first episode of Deep Space Nine, we see like an old Curzon dying, but he doesn't talk, and so so we have a visual reference for him, but that's about it. And then when Odo, I guess, gets his Katra or whatever briefly in that Shintara episode, like we kind of get a sense of who Odo, or sorry, who Curzon was personality wise, and that pretty much comes through.
Curzodo.
Yeah, not counting.
You had
fast.
your Curzodo tonight.
Yeah.
I like mushroom Curzodo.
Yeah, in the pilot, we later find out that that Curzon of the Prime universe died having sex with Miranda, or Arandis, Vanessa Williams, whoever she played in "Let He Is Without Sin." That they were doing some Jamaharan, and I guess he had a heart attack and lived just long enough to pass on the symbiote, but not so much this. What is Lily's aging secret? Well, anyone have a theory there? We don't really know how old she's supposed to be.
Multiversal jumps cover time and space.
Yeah, it's true. She could have been coming from the timeline, like of the Zephyrin Cochrane creates the warp drive, and they do Enterprise, and he was in Enterprise to watch it, like the first ship go off. There was that whole like video package from him. So it could have been in like a similar thing with her, but she's on this new like ship and then starts punching through realities for God knows how long.
Yeah, well, and we'll get to that particular shot, but Lily's ship here, the Beagle, I believe it's referred to in the episode.
Yeah.
That's like this Enterprise design that we've seen through the years. We've never known where it fits in the canon. It's always been this sort of bizarre, it's like that long, skinny toothpick with a big circle. I thought I
was recognizing it because I was watching a video on the ships, and that was one of the early like sketches for the Enterprise.
It was one of the early concepts, and then like in some original series and in some next gen materials, you'll see like a model of that ship sometimes like shown alongside other Enterprises, and you're like, where does this one fit in? But this ship is not referred to as the Enterprise; it's referred to as the Beagle. When
it first comes through that rift, and you just see its silhouette against the white, I thought at first it was Spock's Vulcan ship from the Kelvin timeline.
The jellyfish?
Yeah. Just for a second, I was like, what? But it wasn't.
Once I figured out what the silhouette was, I was like, where are we going with this? This is, and so, yeah, lots to break down. Okay, guys, let's just jump into our visuals. If you're following along, we like to look at the visuals, see what we saw. Sometimes it strikes new conversations. And this episode, the teaser, we begin on the Cerritos. As we see that Rutherford's having some malfunctions with his Vulcan implant. Now, I know that this is going to come back in the finale in some way, so I feel like this is just kind of a setup here. But we see here that it's malfunctioning on him, even shooting plasma, kind of Cyclops style, X-Men style. I did mention kind of briefly that Davin had to tap out, as this is a little late for him. But there's some X-Men homage there, Davin, for you coming from Rutherford, as he nearly kills Boimler.
Singes his hair and gets Sparks and Mariner's Ractigino.
Yeah, there's this whole I think they get into the talk about Boimler having his transported duplicate William Boimler, and that that he died. But then there's kind of this awkward moment where Tendy's like, well, but people die all the time and come back, like Shax, he's doing just great. And we see him here trying to eat his potatoes or whatever it is. This mumbling angrily was hilarious to me.
I love how he's yelling at his mashed potatoes. It just reminds me of Close Encounters. He's just sitting there building the mountain out of his potatoes.
Yeah.
Yes, I was thinking the same thing. He's just an angry version of a Close Encounter. Just like,
yeah. So
also, did we know that he exploded when he died last time? I don't know if we knew that he exploded.
We knew he blew up, I guess, or
Oh yeah, I guess he. Yeah, okay.
He was in a room that was blown up, but then he was resurrected unexpectedly. Then he said, "Oh, that William Boimler, does he say he died or he went off to a different dimension? I wonder what he's up to or what he would be up to."
Yeah, he talks about the Black Mountain.
The Black Mountain. But anyway, so this basically is our segue out of the Prime universe and the Cerritos as we go through sort of a tunnel of space and time to quantum reality 582.76
Omega.
Is that what that symbol is? Omega? Okay. Yeah. We get this other shit.
That's phi. That's
Is
phi.
that a
Omega
phi?
is the horseshoe.
Oh, right. Yes.
Phi? That's what how you would say that? Okay. So, there's many quantum realities, QRs, as they're sometimes referred to in this episode. And we see this version, it's a Defiant class ship. It's what's the name of it, everybody? Did we know the name of
I have it written. I did get some notes. That is the Anaxanar? No, wait.
That sounds... Exactamander, yeah. It was like, okay. So we got kind of a captain's log over here. We'll finally see that it's William Boimler that is on this multiversal kind of spaceship going through all the quantum realities. We have a T'Pol here. We got a Curzon, all from different realities. And finally, we get this sort of reveal that it's William Boimler in command of this vessel, still with his Section 31 comm badge as well. But he says he can't say that name here. They're going through the different quantum realities, trying to find out who is causing all this havoc. So they're kind of like the TVA of quantum realities here, and they're trying to track down what's happened. Bringing on new crew as they've been going along. When they come out of one of these fissures into another reality, and we see there that William Boimler is just not loving life as the captain of the ship. He's been this has been a long haul for him.
He has to hear multiverse ever again.
Yeah, I don't want to hear the multiverse ever again. We see that, yeah, of course, there's like Dr. Garrick on this vessel, voiced by Andrew Robinson, who's
shocked, surprised, amazed, loving every minute of this.
Garrick in a Starfleet uniform alone is quite something. As well as, but married to an EMH based on Bashir, and we know that they in that episode, Dr. Bashir, I presume, they were working on an EMH version of him before they found out he was genetically enhanced and disqualified him from the Mark II. But this tracks, and an interesting way to bring these characters together. Although, different uniform shading on their turtlenecks here, indicating they're from different realities as well. Mm-hmm. You see some variations on comm badges too, and things like that.
Just real quick on that. So when that was introduced, it made me think of, I've spoken of them often, Jen Lee Rossman on their Twitter/X account. They'll often review shows, and they've done Voyager, and they've nicknamed the doctor, the EMH doctor, the emergency medical husband. And when they brought this in, and even was all like calling him a husband, I felt strongly that the writers were doing a bit of a nod to Jen, because they've been somewhat their account has gotten popular over the past few years.
Jen's, you mean?
Yeah, Jen's.
Yeah.
So I thought it was really cool. I was like, that's hilarious. That's a genius little nod.
This was an interesting bit of writing and fan service, no matter for sure. I always hated that Bashir ended up with Ezri. He should have ended up with Garrick. Anyway,
I think a lot of people would agree.
Yeah. We see that the ship, Boimler's ship here, finds an escape pod. Who could it be, everybody? It's Harry Kim, or a Harry Kim, a Lieutenant Harry Kim.
Lieutenant Harry Kim.
Yeah. This was pretty funny, where he's like, "Oh, another Harry Kim. There's more than one." Oh yeah. The unexpected of life here. Where's my
another Harry Kim? Great.
Yeah. Another. What do you mean? And then we see most of the crew are Harry Kims.
What a surprise! Another Harry Kim.
What do you mean, another?
Most of the crew are Harry Kims.
Oh, who's this handsome guy? Hey, Harry. The Kim crew is thriving. High five, baby. Yeah.
I'm so sick of the f***ing multiverse.
Kim.
Boimler's sick of the multiverse, as that is our teaser for the episode. I think that it's just a great gag with having all these versions of Harry Kim. And of course, the antagonist of the episode, I guess, that we meet here in this teaser, the Lieutenant Harry Kim. That can that be?
I would just like
Brilliantly
to
done.
take this moment to call out our fellow podcast member, Michael Chan, and just say, Michael, this is why you don't promote a Harry Kim.
See what happens.
There's lessons to be told. The moral of the story is you don't give Harry Kim's power higher than ensign.
Remember, well, the finale, he was a captain, but then they erased that, so it's all been undone. As we get our title card for the episode, Fissure Quest, coming off of this, we see just like you just have to look at this the William Boimler's face throughout the episode, just to get a very good sense that he's not in loving this command. Wants to he's tired of the multiverse. The crew a bit eccentric. We see Curzon going around, practicing his bat lift maneuvers in the crew. It's established very quickly that he seems to have some kind of a rivalry here with T'Pol, or this version of T'Pol. And he's like, "You'll be thanking me when something needs to be stabbed." That turns out to be true. We'll come back to that. Then. This new Harry Kim that's come aboard, is sort of like our point of view character, sort of the avatar for the audience to say, okay, what's happening here? And that the multiverse is not finite. It's, I think, described by Curzon as a bubble bath where the bubbles are coming undone.
Interesting.
And that something's kind of moving in and out of all of the universes, and that they are, that's causing some issues throughout the quantum realities. So, I don't know. There's something here that pisses off Boimler, where he has to leave, and Harry Kim says something.
I mean, he's probably had to listen to this presentation like 700 times.
I guess anytime somebody new on the crew comes on board, or whatever. Yeah. So, then down, as Lieutenant Kim's getting more acquainted here by the Curzon Dax, we find, see the Bashir and Garrick thing, that they like to brag about how statistically unpredictable it would have been, or unlikely it would have been that they got married. And then Curzon's like, well, there's no true loves falling out of the abyss for Curzon. Yeah. The grumpiness of the Curzons. Then we got a whole scene here with the Harry Kims where, he's like, "Hey Kim, how you doing?" And did Janeway let you sit in the chair? And like, so just some fun questions here.
Did we get back to Earth? And he's like, "Yeah." And then
Yeah.
was like, "Ah."
Wait, this Kim's got.
This Kim's got 2 peps! No way! You're a full lieutenant? You're all still ensigns? That's f***ed up!
Yeah, but hey, my favorite part of Voyager 2 is that they demote Tom Paris to ensign and then promote him back to lieutenant junior grade before Harry ever gets anything. That's my favorite.
Just brilliant.
Yeah. They even go through the exercise of actually promoting Tuvok in the show too, right? Like, so like it was not like they just didn't do any promotions for 7 years. There were some in there.
Garrett Wang must have had a ball doing this episode.
Oh yeah, well I bet he did. He's
So
like,
it was
what?
like the first time in like 23 years that he's been able to play the character of Harry Kim.
Yeah, Robert Dunk McNeil got to be the big bad last season. What about me? He said.
Didn't he? He did Harry Kim for Star Trek Online, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
I thought so. That was after I stopped playing, but I was pretty sure that he did.
Oh yeah, but there's in that game you got Captain Harry Kim, Captain Tom Paris, the EMH is in that game. A lot of Tuvok is an admiral. There's a lot going on in Star Trek.
I think I might have to log into my STO account again sometime soon, there, Captain.
I'll see you there. They're about to. While we're on the topic of Star Trek Online, they're about to redesign the space dock at Earth to match what we saw in Star Trek Picard. It was sort of updated in Picard with so that's about to happen. It'd be a big change.
Good
anyway,
time to jump back in.
We get a whole scene here with Garrick and Bashir where, he's complaining about his hurt neck and he starts giving him a massage. He's like, oh, well, maybe we'll go back to my version of Deep Space Nine. And he's like, I don't want to go to your universe. Why, once, and then there's all this kind of squabbling here between Bashir and Garrick. We'll come back to that, but that's a recurring theme throughout the episode. As the ship here, I keep forgetting the Axanar something or other, Salamander.
An Axamander.
The Axamander is closing this portal, as dimension, but just as they are, something comes out of it. A shuttlecraft that must have been going at warp. They have to do an emergency beam out, and who is it? But Mariner. Well, a Mariner. A Mariner who is an engineer in her universe and still an ensign, but still knows Boimler and all that. He's like, is that T'Pol? I think T'Pol's on the bridge. The Axamander, we get a, which is Defiant Class. We get this mess hall scene where they're all eating ramen noodles, which I thought was an interesting choice. Basically, kind of finding out who we already know. William Boimler, he's the transporter duplicate of Brad Boimler, season 2. So he's the same person as Brad Boimler up until that point, right? And so everything, his relationship with Mariner pretty established at that point. But this version of Mariner, not as much of an adventurer, not as much of a risk taker, more of just stay at home. Great engineer, do the thing, right? I like the Mariner's like, yeah, I'm pretty great. I'm pretty awesome. This is great. More of the Harry Kim lieutenant hero worship here, as they're all kind of going around him and say, what's going on here? But, they're just like, this Lieutenant Harry Kim is just getting more and more mad about how disrespected the legacy of the Harrys is throughout the multiverse, which is slowly driving him insane.
Okay. Quick break here. The name Anaximander is an ancient Greek, comes from Greek roots at least. Anax meaning lord, or master, or ruler, and mandro meaning of man or pertaining to man. Thus the name Anaximander can be interpreted as lord of man or master of men.
Mm-hmm. He was also a pre-Socratic philosopher, and some people credit him with being the first person to come up with a multiverse theory, but it's debatable whether he meant multiverses existing concurrently aside one another, or the old theory of one world after another world, after another world type thing.
Gotcha.
But either way, still connected to the multiverse.
I'm glad you've broken that down for me, because I would have just not remembered this name at all. But I assumed it was kind of a made-up multiversal name that didn't matter, but it does.
Well, the guy was apparently around in 1600 to 546 BCE, and he had work in cosmology, geography, and biology. So he's kind of a scientist.
Probably math.
Well, we get more of a scene here with T'Pol and Curzon, where she's complaining about his choice of diet.
Sodium is not a full life.
Maybe it is for me, damn it!
Maybe it is for me. This whole scene
That
was
line
hilarious.
killed me.
Yeah, the fact that these two are like bitter rivals or something on this crew is kind of an interesting choice. But then become, they're more like a Spock and McCoy, I guess, dynamic. Really is way more to put it. And yeah, then we come back to the whole Mariner and Boimler thing, where she basically reveals that she has a way of tracking who's creating these rifts. Where that's huge news for Boimler, so he says, "Okay, we have to get to the bridge." So. Then we get a scene around a console here where Mariner kind of breaks it all down, explaining that the reason that they're not finding the ship that's creating the portals is that the portal that they're finding is actually kind of created accidentally, or sort of because of the energy. This kind of makes sense. I don't know if I'm explaining it very well, but
one portal opens, which is opened by the lead ship. That portal has residual energy, which opens up the second portal, which kind of seems to be bigger. And these are what these guys have been following, but they're always out of sync with it, so they never really can quite catch up.
yeah, so they've been going to the wrong portal, and I was good with all this. I was like, okay, this is sort of rational. If it makes sense, as long as I can follow it, it's fine. Which was so
Now
they're
you're
like,
thinking
okay,
with portals.
if we create our own portal, then the ship we're chasing or whoever we're chasing will be forced to come through this one. So they'll kind of set a trap, effectively, and that is the sort of the objective here. So they open it. Oh, and I think Boimler says, "You're a great engineer, Mariner," and she's like, "Why is that such a surprise?" Or whatever. When they open the portal, then we get this moment where the ship comes through, and we see this silhouette that we already kind of talked about briefly at the top. Like, I thought there was a lot of theories that went through my head when I saw this. I thought maybe of the solar sail ship that that Cisco built in Deep Space Nine with Jake. But then I'm looking at it, I'm like, no, this is like an old ship, like a 22nd or early 23rd century vessel that we would have seen. And, Curzon takes a shot at it, and it has no shields because shields weren't invented when this ship was built. So that they end up hitting it pretty hard. It ends up creating its own portal, the Beagle does, which the Axamander follows through here. And she's like, "Oh, I hate this part." And Curzon's, "I love this part of going through the transdimensional rift," with all the trippy effects that come with that. He fully leans into it. Then they're kind of in like this abyss, I guess, in between the universes briefly. They're not really in any universe. And, so while this is happening, Mariner brings down one of the Harry Kims to be fixed. He's like, "Oh, yeah, these Harry Kims are tougher than they look. They'll be all right." We get this other squabble here between Bashir and Garrick about what universe they're going to live in. And by the end of it, Bashir is mad and says, "You're sleeping on the floor. I'll be sleeping in the bed." And all this.
And then turns himself off.
And Garrick's just like, "Humans," and then he goes, "Well, not you, Harry Kim, actually." But I'm like, this Bashir is not human. He's a photonic. Anyway, so get another shot of that ship there, the Beagle. Interesting looking design, really. So Curzon's like, "We need to fire on this," and Boimler's, before he can really object or tell him not to, it's too late. He fires phasers, and this causes a huge kind of explosion for both ships, where they both kind of get disabled and damaged quite a bit. Being forced to land down on this planet. Well, the Beagle crashes, and the Axamander, I guess, lands a little bit more intentionally. This is Curzon's like, "He'll be okay," and Boimler's like, "It better be." This is one of my other favorite parts, where Mariner's like, "Well, Boimler, he's like a big Starfleet nerd, just like Archer. You have one of those too, right?" And she's like, "Yes."
That was
Wait, that's not the right
more Katra than I.
That's the wrong quote. I want this one.
Big Starfleet nerd is an accurate description.
Big Starfleet nerd. That's the best way to put Archer. Yeah. So I enjoyed all that. They land the ship down in the bog, this swamp, whatever, and they have to waddle through it, I believe is the term, before they come across the natives of the planet, who seem friendly. Is this meant to be a moopsie or something? These aliens, or
There could be some type.
This is a reference to something else, but I can't remember what it is. I mean, they look like axolotls. But the Moopsie is referenced by Curzon very shortly in this episode.
Yeah, he said, "Well, at least they're not drinking our bones." And I was like, okay, well, was that a major concern?
So maybe they're of the same family?
Genome?
Maybe.
Remans and Romulans?
Well, Mariner at first says she knows this species and that they're friendly, but then they turn out not to be so friendly. and before they know it, T'Pol and Curzon get like sucked into the bog or whatever and pulled underneath, before they are ultimately taken down as well. Trying to, play nice for a moment there before being pulled in. So then there's like this prison facility, or whatever this is, that these aliens run with their little pitchforks. They don't like the talking. Mariner's never been in jail before, so this Mariner's really a different Mariner than the Mariner we know, who spends most of her time in the brig, or at least used to.
She's very passive. This was a huge reveal, though. This reveal was huge.
We find out, they're not sharing the cell alone. They're in here with somebody, and I was like, when I'm first looking at this person, I'm also like, I know this person, but I can't quite place who this is meant to be, right? I can tell it's like an Enterprise era sort of uniform, but I'm not quite sure on the thing. And I share the Boimler and Mariner's confusion at first before it's kind of revealed that it is Lily Sloan from Star Trek First Contact, voiced by Alfred Woodward, or Woodard. What the thing here is. Then we get a cutscene away where the aliens are boarding the Axamander, and they're attacking the pillows with their pitchforks. I guess trying to see if there's any shapeshifters, maybe. Inside the room before moving on. We see Garrick was hiding in a panel, and of course, Bashir is a hologram. Doesn't need to worry about that, but he's got a mobile emitter here for him, and that activates him lickety split. So Garrick's like, I have to go save the crew. You stay here and guard the ship. And there's a big smooch here between them. Then moving on. Bashir's kind of left to do whatever.
I'm sure there were a lot of fanfic writers that were screaming and kicking their feet during that scene.
Oh, maybe, yeah. Like it's well, at least in one alternate universe or two alternate universes, this is the whole thing. So there you go. And it's still very funny too, especially since it's Alexander Siddig and Andrew Robinson doing it. They obviously have a great rapport, no matter what their dialogue is. So this was great. Back to the planet where the Harry Kim is Lieutenant Harry Kim. He's been put into a jail with only the other Harry Kims, who are pretty content playing cards, playing clarinet, whatever else they're doing. But the Lieutenant Harry Kim's mad that he's not in the cell with all the command crew, and they're like, "Who cares? A cell's a cell." But this resentment of Lieutenant Harry Kim is building as we get more of this dialogue here between the Boimler crew and the Lily Sloan crew from their dimension, which they explain that they built their ship to explore different quantum realities. They don't even know what warp drive is. Is that what I'm led to believe in this?
They did not develop warp drive.
Yeah,
right.
their timeline. They didn't develop warp drive. There's Ephraim Cochrane developed quantum reality drive.
Quantum reality drive, but
like
how do they?
Quantum drive or something.
Are these Vulcans from a different quantum reality?
I believe so. It's probably all from their timeline, and they hold a Federation philosophy not to interact with other quantum realities, and they think they've been carefree, jumping from space to space like quantum reality, but their bubble's actually been doing residual damage, and now these guys have been chasing them down, and then of course, the good old-fashioned Starfleet trope of getting caught in the same brig and figuring out, wait a minute, you're not my enemy.
Yeah, well put. That is what it's explained, that they didn't realize that the damage they're doing here. Then they're getting harassed by this guard here who doesn't like talking. These aliens don't like when the humans talk. But just then they get Boimler pretty good here with their little pitchfork. But then, as this guard is getting all upset, he gets karate chopped or whatever by Dr. Garrick himself, who's fighting everybody here and doing.
I've never enjoyed frontal confrontation.
Oh yeah, that was a great.
I've never been one for face-to-face combat.
You'd stab a man in the back. It's the best way. He told Odo, right? That's way to make sure he doesn't shoot you back. But as they make their escape here, we see that Harry Kim, Lieutenant Harry Kim, he's up to something here. He's got those eyes, those shifty eyes. As they're making their escape, they're running and they get to the Beagle, still in a muck as they're trying to fix it up here.
Okay, I don't know about you guys, but have either of you ever watched the show Scrubs?
A little bit, not a lot, but
there's always a scene where the main character would always be like eagle, and every time they would say beagle, my brain would go beagle.
Good to know.
Hey, wait a minute. Boimler and Rutherford are, very much
You know
like
what?
JD and Turk.
You know what? They kind of are, now that you mention it.
I never thought about that.
Is that Zach Braff and who's the other guy?
I'm embarrassed.
Yeah, me too. I think it's Chris. No, is it Chris? Oh, damn it! Now I'm gonna look up. Fuck. I'm gonna hate myself.
Well, we'll just to sum up the plot areas, we're getting towards the end. So there's this whole thing here where, Lily Sloan showing off her ship to Mariner, and then there's a whole thing here between Boimler and Lily where, he's like, I'm sick of the multiverse. I don't consider that exploring and whatever. And so Lily has
Donald
to kind of...
Faison.
Yeah. More Harry Kim.
Yes.
Chris Turk was his character name. Donald Faison was the actor.
Donald Faison. Gotcha. So that whole thing with Lily and Boimler continues outside of the ship where, she's like, I've explored many different universes and seen like humans who can build around the sun. But, she said like learning about aliens is interesting, but learning about humanity is really where it's at, which I think is kind of an interesting, philosophy and look at things that they're more about.
The infinite potential of humanity. I was like, that's actually awesome. She's like, oh yeah, we've built around the sun. We've built like moons that are like gigantic and so on and so forth. It's like, that sounds very
Fascinating.
Fascinating and also endless. Like, how you would spend your entire life doing that. I don't think you'd even come close to even finding the end or the middle, because it just feels like it would be some type of Ouroboros of information.
Yeah, well, I think that whole concept really turns Boimler around here. This William Boimler, who's goes from being kind of cynical and burnt out to kind of having a better outlook. As Lily points out, that like his relationship with Mariner that transcends all these universes, and that trust that's there is so strong, and that there's, even though these two technically never met before, but they had in the sense, right? And so it's that they can continue that. But as that whole talk is happening, we suddenly see that the Beagle has been like stolen,
Activated, set in the launch mode.
We even get to see like it's like how it kind of converts as it lands and everything else. Like there's a lot of like went into this like design and how to like make it a working model in animation. So then Boimler and everybody else have to head over to the Axamander. Still trying to learn these things, which are he's covered in these like whatever these aliens are down on the planet, and they're not ready to give it up. And but you know what, Curzon's ready for a fight, and so Curzon's like, we don't have time for this. Curzon's like, I do. And he just starts having a blast fighting all of these salamander things, as he's told to be careful. Mariner has a great line when she comes back to the bridge. It was like, all that muck made me so tired, all that waiting.
I like the one line when they saw the Kims on the brig, and they're like, oh, Harry Kim, how are you? And he's like, oh, we're just soggy.
A little soggy, but we're fine, you know. As we see here, now that they got on the view screen, Lieutenant Harry Kim has stolen it because he's tired of all these Harry Kims having a mediocre life, and he's going to give them a better life. And
he's going to rank them up.
The Harry Kim that wears the flight suit, he was like, no, we were tricked by Lieutenant Harry Kim. I'm like, but you could all overpower him. He's one guy against 8 of you or whatever. But they must be intimidated by the Pip. So they can't disobey a superior Kim, at least not right away. As he's planning to steal everything off here. Curzon comes back to the bridge where we see like we kind of all know he's been wounded. But that's not playing out quite right away, as they're trying to chase down the Beagle that's been stolen by the Kims, but they can't do it because of the gravity distortion. They're too far away, and they won't catch them in time. And then he's like, shut up, Harry. You shut up, Harry. All that. But Engineer Mariner figures out a solution, increasing the gravity so they can do a quick micro warp away. But that's going to cause some issues here.
Yeah, basically it's like putting her in like what was it, like the Dragon Ball Z like gravity chamber, turned it up to like 100 and basically tried to crush herself just so they could go a little faster.
Yeah, because they're like somehow the Beagles got it's like 10,000 kilometers ahead of them by this point, even though it's a slower ship. And
it had like a bunch of launch time. They had to run.
They did have to run back and all that. So but whatever. So she has to turn up the gravity and the engineering, but that's obviously gonna crush her or whatever. She's trying to press the button, but then who is it? It's a holographic Bashir. You need a holographic hand, of course, not affected by the gravity here. As it's able to do, and they're able to do like the quick warp. But just then we see that Curzon not doing so good. He's gone very pale here. You know, haven't we watched enough Daxes die, Justin? You know, do we need this again?
I was like, no, no more.
Pour one out for my Daxes.
Yeah. And so they make it here. They finally turn off the gravity, which Mariner's relieved by. And then down here, Dr. Garrick is unable to save Curzon. There's nothing he can do. Or the symbiote, because there's no other Trills present. So there's this thing. Then there's this whole thing with Garrick and Bashir where they finally put their whole argument, I'll follow you to any reality.
Garrick, you do know I'll follow you to any reality.
I'd do the same for you. I really don't care where we end up as long as we're together.
What? Then why have we been arguing?
Because it's fun.
No, it's not!
No, it's not! It's not fun!
Because it's fun. Good stuff.
So this is where there's the mutiny finally over on the Beagle with the Kims. They turn on Harry here and they say, "You're out of line, Harry," and then he says, "I got a phaser though." And I'm going to show you all. So
He's gone mad with power. Stop him.
He's gone mad with power. As they're trying to overpower him.
Starfleet
Back on the accident is Curzon's dying. There's kind of this whole thing here with T'Pol. Where he's like, "I guess you are happy to see me die." She takes no satisfaction. But just then she's like, she does the whole mind meld thing specifically with the symbiote. And interestingly, doesn't do it on Curzon's head, but on his
abdomen.
His abdomen, which I guess makes sense. So, this was very original kind of an idea. You're taking two ideas and kind of mashing them together. But I was like, wow, that's kind of original. This idea that T'Pol could take on all of the Trills.
Yeah, that's pretty intense.
Like 6 lifetimes, I suppose it would have been up to this point. 7 if this Curzon also had the Joran Dax and everything else. But yeah, that was
more Katra than I had anticipated.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what they all say. Yeah. Lieutenant Harry Kim, he's somehow defeating all of the other Kims with his one phaser. And then he finally says, "You guys suck. You don't get to have the better life." So he beams them all back to the other ship. So they got their Kims back. Great to be back, sir.
They immediately go to their stations.
Yeah, they're like, okay, they're just like this eager bunch of worker bees, I guess, is what they're going for. And and this Lieutenant Harry Kim is mad with power, and he's completely insane, I guess.
He's going into the deep, and they're like, "Don't do it, Harry. You're literally gonna destroy all the universes.
All the universes." Yeah, he's so evil. Yeah, you're right. He must have had a ton of fun. And part of me wonders if he's not going to be dead. Like he's somehow going to be some kind of other antagonist for this next second part of the episode. But
he just like ends up merging with like God Badgie.
Something. Yeah, something not good. But then so the rift seals, but then it has like this crimson sort of back effect, right, where they can't, it hits the ship here. That's where she gets all the Katra, more Katra than I anticipated. And Curzon, is thankful that you took all the Daxes before he dies.
You were a good Vulcan.
You were a good Vulcan, I suppose. And then they're like, well, we have to do something, but if you do anything, Boimler, it might make it worse. Worse than the end of all reality? Yes. We can't do anything. So they figure, okay, it took me 2 times to watch this to really understand what they think they have to do, but they need to get somebody in another reality to try to intervene or to try to stop what's now taking place, or what's a chain reaction, I suppose.
Not really. Okay, so here's the thing. She figured out that if you were to use like the polarity of whatever proton packs they've got in the ship, and they shoot the multi-webbed, multi-universe ending energy destruction thing that's happening, they can actually just send it to a single reality instead of having it affect all the realities. And this is when Boimler, makes the snap decision to send it to the reality that he's from, because he's a transporter clone of the original Boimler, and he knows that the original Boimler is going to keep his cool, and he's going to let the Mariner and the Tendi and the Rutherford know, and he trusts that those 4 will be able to stop this universe-ending cataclysmic energy demon. So it's going to be, a complete draw of the wheel to see how things go. So that's he's like, let's do it, and then he gets them to shoot the beam.
Gotcha.
How that works.
Jadzia. I know I have something here because I just saw.
It's good to see you again.
Oh, okay, because I got a question here from Norman saying, how will T'Pol handle the Joran Dax memories? And I just couldn't remember that time that Cisco had that whole personality embedded here, where he's like, "It's good to see you, Jadzia.
It's good to see you again, Jadzia.
You're so pretty. Hello, Jadzia. You're so pretty."
Can you hear the Togs, Jadzia? Can you hear the Togs screaming?
That's good. I like that. Anyway, so they decide that they're going to send it to Boimler's, or to the lower decks universe, to like our main lower deckers, right? Which and send this out, and they're like, "Will he be able to handle it?" Oh, sure, he might. He'll be fine. As it comes over here to the Boimler, to the Bradward Boimler,
because he piggybacked a comm message with the beam that they shot in to send it to the universe. So he gets sort of like the, "Hey, look out."
"Hey, look out," email. All reality might collapse. It's all up to you. And he goes, "Holy we're all gonna die!"
I love it.
We're all gonna die. And it's actually a pretty great cliffhanger, I thought.
Amazing cliffhanger.
Just no notes on this episode. None.
Well, it's such an interesting I really hope part 2 pays it off, and I fully expect it will be. As we go into our final episode, and it just kind of I considering how much they did in this 22 minutes, I'm sure they can do it, but I feel like I need a 2-hour movie after this, to really pay it off, and so very interesting. Norman, he's giving it a 9 out of 10. I know there was big numbers coming from the other Live Long and podcast community, in the chat today. I'm inclined to agree with them, but before we put any numbers down, Justin, do you have any Easter eggs or fun facts you'd like to share with us?
I have a couple small ones. I didn't get through the whole episode today. I got a little sidetracked, but let's see what I wrote down here. All right. So, first thing to notice is that Boimler Prime officially has his full beard now.
He did. I did notice that too.
Full beard Boimler.
All the patches are in.
The Beagle is, like you said, an adaptation of the ringed Enterprise design that I think wasn't it in the Kelvin timeline? Wasn't it a model in one of the Kelvin ones? But anyway, it was the Ring Enterprise ship. That's what that was based off of.
We've seen it before, the Kelvin universe too. It's been
it was a Jeffries drawing, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I think we've seen it in in actual canon before, like in original series or something like that.
Curzon mentions Moopsie.
He does the drinking of the bones and all that.
Exactly. Tuvix is mentioned by the Kims in the background when they're in the mess hall.
What
Hey,
happened
how did
to
you
your
solve your
Tubix?
Let's see. Troy was duplicated.
Yeah,
Instead of Riker.
In my reality, it was Troy, and then one of them got stuck on a planet for 8 years. I was like, I wonder what that Troy was like.
The Bishalogram talks to Dr. Garrick about racquetball. Let's see. Oh, the bubble bath explanation of the multiverse is a reference to how physicists explain quantum foam and how that micro wormholes at the quanta level in the quantum foam could possibly be bridges between universes. Small Einstein-Rosen bridges for the physics fans or the Donnie Darko fans out there. There was more Klingon birds of prey that I noticed in the opening credits battle.
It is changing. Like,
They add something every episode. I didn't realize that until mid last season, though.
I thought it was every season they were adding something, not every episode.
Maybe it
so.
is
It's every episode.
Yeah,
I think it's like it's every season, but I also feel like it's been also it's like something for the first quarter of the season, and then something for the middle quarter, and then usually by the last quarter, there's like the whole thing.
Gotcha.
And they just keep seemingly adding to it. So.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I picked up at the very beginning was Rutherford mentions that his Oculus won't connect to the Cerritos systems for some reason, and that seems to me like they're setting something up for the final episode.
Something with that malfunction is definitely going to play into the finale. I just don't know exactly what.
And I was breaking Murphy's mind earlier because Captain William Boimler, who is wearing a black badge, by the way, Section 31 comes out in January.
January 24th.
And he is so confident and so competent enough that he's a captain in Section 31, and he is the Boimler. Like, he's Boimler Prime. He's an exact copy of him. So Boimler Prime is capable of everything he's capable of. So right. I said to Murphy, what if the Red Pad Boimler from Dos Cerritos was actually the transporter clone from that universe and not the actual Boimler? So our Boimler has just been trying to be the transporter clone the whole time when his transporter clone was doing what he wanted to do and captaining a ship already.
Well, okay, I'm trying to follow that. So
see, I was like, sorry. Wait a minute.
I immediately posted the Charlie conspiracy gif.
Are you? Well, because we're only talking about the two transporter duplicate Boimlers.
Yeah.
There's not really a clone specifically, but
No, not a clone. Yeah, just the duplicates. There's William Boimler and Bradward Boimler.
Right, and the one that just like how Thomas Riker's considered to be like kind of the clone, but he's not really in a sense either. But he's not the main character we know from the main show as well. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of
I don't know. I overthink everything. So
you think Bradward is William and William is Bradward?
In the other universe, in future Cerritos, where Mariner is the captain universe.
Oh, you mean that we had in the very first episode of the season?
Oh, I'm seeing what
that
you're
Boimler
saying.
is actually the transporter clone from that universe, or the transporter duplicate rather from that.
Oh,
universe,
the duplicate that had
original.
some confidence
yeah.
Wait.
That makes sense. I could see that.
No, I'm confused now. Wait, are you talking about the engineers, mariners, Boimlers, or are you talking
No. Okay, in Dos Cerritos, we get freshly shaven Boimler, babyface Boimler, Boimler Prime, and we get bearded Boimler.
Yes.
And Boimler Prime then goes on for this whole season to imitate bearded Boimler.
Yes.
But what if bearded Boimler in that universe, in his own universe, is actually the transporter clone who is the captain in Prime Boimler.
Okay.
Now I'm confusing myself.
If I could
but I'm pretty sure
paraphrase
that's
for
what I
you,
meant.
Justin, I think what you mean is, so in the main Lower Decks timeline, we get two Boimlers, Bradward and William. One goes off to be confident and serve with William Riker on the Titan, and the other just kind of remains a bumbling kind of idiot. But so maybe in that universe that we met in season 5, episode 1, he's the one that became the confident Boimler, and the other one becomes who went off to do whatever. Let's say he went off to the Titan, was just kind of like the Boimler we know. Less confident, needs
Exactly.
all these things.
That is much less confusing than what I just garbled out.
No, but I think we pieced it together, and that's a theory. Yeah, like that. That because this Boimler from the main one we've been following throughout, he's been trying to live up to this alternate dimension version, and I think the whole thing is like it's like Dumbo. You didn't need the feather the whole time, right? It was you, right? And so it's kind of probably where that's headed. Is like you don't need to pretend to be another Boimler, which Rutherford's been reinforcing for him, right? Since all that took place,
Okay,
right?
I see what you're saying now.
Yeah.
See, I thought you were saying that Bradward and William had switched, and the one that was captaining the Anaximander was actually the original Bradward Boimler.
Oh.
And that's why I was like, no, this feels like it would be a betrayal to the fans if you were to just say that the whole time the Bradward Boimler for the past 2 seasons was actually William, and I'd be like, no, that doesn't compute. I don't.
That would be like when they tried to say that Peter Parker was the clone and Ben Reilly was the original Spider-Man. That was talk about controversial.
You know what? Because you mentioned that,
but they undid it. They undid all that. Remember?
It still happened. I
still
was
happened.
alive. I bought
It was.
those comics.
I remember very. And for like 2 or 3 years, it was like what? And then they like reversed it all. Anyway, they said no. It was actually a Green Goblin plot. Anyway, but guys,
Stupid Ben Reilly.
let's throw down some numbers on this episode. Or is my little rating ticker? And Davin said 10, which totally cool. So, Justin, what do you want to give this one?
I'm going to go 9.9 only because it didn't have Brent Spiner.
Okay. 9. Fissure Quest, Lower Decks. Okay, sorry. 9.9. Okay, fair enough. And Murphy?
I'm going to echo the statements of our good Admiral. This is going to be 11 out of 10. I don't give 11s out often, but this is an 11 for me.
An 11. Okay. I gave an 11 the other night to an Orville episode, and Jody, his mind broke. So,
I'll have to watch that.
Yeah, I think this is. I don't think this is my favorite episode ever, but it's really, really strong. So I'm gonna go 9 point something. Let's say 9.5. And maybe because I want to leave some room for dessert. So and see. Hopefully, I'm hoping the next episode's even better. And has like a real like. I don't know, like satisfying conclusion. So, but this is kind of, a 2-parter in a sense. Just want to see what the IMDb score is at this time.
If this ends off in just like the weirdest little cliffhanger, and then we get like the crew of Lower Decks will return in the movie of blah, 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 or something. Will we be satisfied? Will we be angry? Or if we just get a solidified ending, will everyone be like content with that? Because me personally, I think the fact that they're ending this is lunacy. This could go on for years. And not only could it go on for years, they could absolutely capitalize on the immense roster of legendary Star Trek actors that are still alive and well, but maybe not so camera ready these days,
Right. Yeah.
And you could really expand on so many stories, and I really am very disappointed that this is the final season, and these last 2 episodes are just solidify how good this show is and how much it should stay a thing, and it should be alive and well, and it's just a sham to a human society that we don't get to have this cartoon adventure continue.
It is too bad. I agree with you. Like, I'm sad that it's ending too soon. Like, you could compare this show a little bit to The Simpsons, and that show for me is a show that outlived its welcome, right? This hasn't got to that point, not even close. The Simpsons used to do like 20 somethings, or maybe they still do 20 something episodes a season. This one only get 10. And, so there's so much left to say. Like, even on the Cerritos itself, I feel like I know the crew. There's that guy from that episode or that woman. And plus all of these, like, extended characters, all this greater pantheon of characters. And they've done it so well. I was so skeptical of the show in the beginning when I found out about it, because I was like, how is this comedy going to mesh with the canon of the main, Star Trek universe?
Yeah. I was like, you know what? I already have a Rick and Morty.
Yeah, like I was like, well, if it is going to be a thing, you'd think it would be an alternate universe. But they found a very satisfying way to me to make it funny and make it feel like it belongs in the same universe as like Deep Space Nine or any of the other shows we've watched, right? They might.
I was going to say this, not to cut you off. Sorry. This show's got such a beautiful weaved tapestry of what Star Trek is, that it honestly kind of reignited my interest in Star Trek. I always sort of grew up with it, didn't quite pay attention to it, but I started watching Lower Decks kind of out of interest. I would always watch new Star Trek, but I would never really like consume it and like take it in. Lower Decks made me decide to really go back and do that, and because of this show, I've actually gone back and watched all of the old, not like TNG basically, and coming back to the new, like the more recent produced stuff. It's that the way that this show has introduced the ideas in such a comedic way, it makes it easier to go back and watch this sort of campy-esque presentation of Star Trek, simply because of the way it's like produced and stuff. Like, even the most ridiculous episodes don't seem that bad in retrospective to how funny it kind of is, and it makes it a lot more entertaining.
Well, yeah, like Star Trek is a little ridiculous at times, and I think that even the very first episode of the series nails that with like, what if everyone gets like this weird black ooze zombie virus, and you're like, well, there was that time that everyone turned into like a spider, into a monkey, and whatever else on the,
right?
And like, yeah, like Star Trek does all kinds of wacky out there, like what this is like the sci-fi idea of the week. And the way that Lord X just kind of like casually says, yeah, well, that's just Tuesday in Star Trek sometimes, and and other times it's very like grounded, deep science fiction, and like they finding a way to be sort of everything to everyone all at once, if you will.
Yeah, I love it because, I mean, as the two of you have probably gotten to know by now, in and out of our podcasting, I don't take anything very seriously for more than a few seconds at a time. And a show like this that can take the piss out of something that I love so much and still be respectful to the point of almost being reverential to the original material, I love. Like, I just think the whole thing is a work of Star Trek art that I didn't expect it to be. When, like you said, I was really skeptical. When I saw it advertised, I was like, oh, great, it's Rick and Morty with a Delta. And a lot of people think that that's what it is. I disagree with that, but there are definitely Rick and Morty-esque moments, like our skulking friend in Fully Dilated. Like, that was totally a Rick and Morty-esque moment. But I think that it took, like Murphy said, it took all of what's great about all of Star Trek and put it into one show that not only exemplifies the Star Trek that I remember, but it refreshes it for a whole new audience. So like people that are seeing Lower Decks like this, having only come in to Discovery or Strange New Worlds or the Kelvin timeline, can see this and not get all of the enjoyment that the three of us do out of the references, and then we'll go back and watch TNG and DS9 and all of it. Which I think the world needs far more Trek. So I'm always up. As I've said 100 times before, I don't care what you do. Put someone in a Delta, tell me a story about it, and I will sit down
and make me care. You know, like I think for me, like when this show really won me over was in the finale of season 1. Like, and I was already enjoying it up to that point, but when Shax sacrifices himself there, which they kind of reference in this episode at the end of season 1, I remember I was watching that live with Jaemeel and Jeff right before we went on to do the podcast, and when we realized like they were killing him off, we're like, no, and we're like, man, you actually made us care about this character. You know, this character that we thought was, we all, especially Jeff, I remember coming in, he's like, this is going to ruin Star Trek, and like we're like, no, we care. You know, we're like, you can't kill our favorite character. And they brought him back, you know, just like they brought Spock back to life. And that's kind of the fun thing with Star Trek too, right? So that you have those sort of liberties. Anyway, guys, we averaged a 10.1 tonight on the rating. So mostly brought up by Murphy's 11. This says a 9 right now. IMDb showing a score of 9 with 156 votes. So, you know, that's much higher than we would normally see at this time after an episode, and more votes than I would normally see at this time. So, yeah, I think that this episode struck, a chord with people, if you will.
Absolutely.
Well, we've been on for an hour, so we'll wrap it up here. Guys, we got the finale next week titled The New Next Generation. Well, we've speculated already a little bit what that could mean. You know, if there will be some kind of door left open for a spin-off or a continuation, we'll see. Or if it's just, you know, going to be about these lower deckers kind of moving up to be their own upper deckers. I don't know. I'm not quite sure what the intention is, but I'll be there for it no matter what. As we head into this.
I will not be joining you next week. I have a prior engagement, but I will send you my thoughts before the podcast, and good luck.
And I'm hoping to do, not after we do the next episode, you know, we'll do like a sort of a, what did it all mean, Basil? And a full series retrospective, which, you know, we'll bring in Jaemeel and everybody else, you know, who's been part of this podcast over the last 5 years.
I'll get a whiteboard.
Yeah, get a whiteboard, all the conspiracies, all the things we can put together,
all the
and deep
threads.
dive into it. Thanks so much. Check out all our great content here on the channel. Every Monday night, we're doing an episode of The Orville. We just did tomorrow, the penultimate episode of season 2 of The Orville. We'll be on for the finale of season 2 this Monday, can't remember the name, but we'll be on for it. We just reviewed the Section 31 trailer, the new special movie event coming out on January 24th.
Middleman free.
Yeah, so more Emperor Georgiou and whatever she's up to in the early 24th century. And then also you can check out the 12 Debates of Christmas series by Davin Skellhorn, where he's looking back at all of our great Star Trek debates over the years, singing Christmas carols and things of that nature. Look out for that. I think he's got 4 installments already. And if you didn't know, we're doing Star Trek Radio Theater, everybody. At the end of this month, on December 29th, we're doing Star Trek Generations, the closest thing Star Trek has to a Christmas movie. And we're going to have all the great team here, including myself, Justin, and Chris Murphy, playing various roles, you know, for this live on-air script read that we'll be doing. Along with Sean Farrick from Trek Culture and many more here in Live Long and Podcast. So it's going to be great. Look out for that. All right. Well, any final thoughts, guys? You know what? I think we need a reality that can respond to this threat. We'll see you next time, everybody. Have a good night.
We need a reality that can respond to the threat. I know where to send it. Scan me. Use my reality.
What? Boims, no!
Are you sure?
No, but I'm there. And so are you. And Tendi and Rutherford. I know they can figure out a solution.
Why would you do this to your friends?
Because he trusts them.
And that trust transcends quantum realities.
I hope you're right.
I piggybacked a message to my duplicate. He'll know what to do.
Will he?
Yeah, as long as he doesn't freak out.
Holy we're all gonna die!
Beam up some Star Trek content with Live Long and Podcast. Tune in to X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show. Artistic interviews with graphic histories. A roundtable movie discussion with, hey, did you see this one? and movie reviews with Hold Up, a movie podcast. And while you're at it, spin a few records with Eamon on Track. Watch us duke it out on trivial debates. And let's chat about TV with the Super Mater Brothers. It's all here on the United Federation of Podcasts.